Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is February 12th, 2023. Hopefully you guys are having a good one. Hopefully you're getting lucky. I don't know. I felt like a thing to say on like a Valentine's weekend, right? I don't know. All right, before I say any more cringe shit, let's talk about my food corner. Yeah, I ate a lot of food yesterday. A lot of food. Too much. I went to El Trumpo and I got a big old burrito. Had like a bunch of kinds of meat in it, like chicken. I don't know. There was too much meat, and then they had like shrimp on top and a bunch of cheese. So that was delicious. Then I got Subway. I got a foot long chicken teriyaki. Yummy, yummy. And then I was hungry again for more food, and I got Taco Bell. I got a um, burrito supreme, a Crunchwrap supreme, a chicken soft taco, and they had what they called a taco melt, a crispy taco melt. I don't know. It was kind of mid, honestly. I just tried it. It was essentially just a hard taco that was super crunchy. It had a little bit more flavor to it, so I'll give them that. Whatever. But yeah, overall, I ate a lot, and I'm definitely still a little poached. But overall, been a good day, and here to serve you some news real quick. Well, hopefully real quick. I don't know. I like to get in the weeds sometimes. Um, from the Associated Press, Nicaragua frees 222 opponents of Ortega, sends them to U.S. So this was something it's kind of a little bit murky on the logistics on how this all happened. The United States, we're saying that this was a unilateral decision by the government um, of President Daniel Ortega, and essentially we made it happen. But from Ortega's side, he's like, I didn't negotiate with them at all. It's not like that at all. Do not expect anything to come of this. This is simply me deporting, getting rid of U.S. mercenaries, bad influences that we've wrangled up and we just don't want to deal with anymore. Like we're getting them out of our country. So, a bit of this or that, maybe. I do think it's obviously a little bit more in between in terms of, just some details and stuff from the situation. Ortega and Nicaragua has been sanctioned by the government, or our government, the U.S. And hopefully, there's going to be some lifting and changings of that in the future. And hopefully this was like kind of like a goodwill gesture for that. Now there was initially 224 prisoners who were supposed to be, excuse me, who were supposed to be, released. But I think two of them declined and wound up actually, I think, going to a prison. Let's see if I can find it in the article. Da, 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 da. They were sent to a hotel in Northern Virginia, and that's where the Nicaraguans are staying. Da, 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 da. Oh, and also they're going to be in that hotel for or not hotel. I don't know necessarily going to be that hotel per se, but they're going to be on like a sort of parole for 2 years, and then they are either going to, I guess, maybe apply for like citizenship or maybe go home or somewhere else. Let's see, Roman Catholic Bishop Rolando Alvarez. I believe he was one who wound up staying. Yeah, and he's now in Modelo prison. Um, let's read a little bit here. Roman Catholic Bishop Rolando Alvarez was on the list of 39 prisoners who were not on the plane compiled by the non-governmental group Mechanism for Recognition of political prisoners. Ortega said that Alvarez had refused to board the plane, saying he had to speak with the bishops. The bishop had been in house arrest, but Ortega said he is now being held in Modelo prison. So I don't know if like he's not going to be able to go back home or whatever, or he's going to go to prison. I don't know. That was kind of a little bit confusing to me, but so yeah, that's why it was 222 instead of 224. I don't know about the other guy who wasn't on the plane either. So I mean, this was a development. I mean, in terms of the relations, will it improve? Hopefully, see some changes there. I'm obviously not too versed in Nicaragua. I don't know why I say obviously, but I mean, it's just, I guess it's reflective because I haven't really covered too much going on there in terms of like just stuff that's happening in, the Latin South American area. That being said, it's always nice to have these kind of stories to give me a toehold in there and kind of talk about it and maybe get some time to learn. And hopefully I can maybe give a little bit more coverage on it in the future. Moving along to Axios, Kim Jong-un's daughter center stage as Pyongyang showcases largest ever ICBM parade. So this was a parade that took place, and there was like a lot of nuclear missiles and the newest military hardware. This took place, I think, Wednesday night. I think I read a headline saying like, oh, like North Korea showcases enough missiles to like blow up the USA or something like that. Like that's how the headline was kind of worded, which I get. You use some clickbait when it comes to North Korea, get people on there. But I kind of laugh because it's not like that's something that's going to happen. It's often a lot of these situations are just they're flexes. They're showing a force to let people know that we could do it. We could do something very catastrophic to a country. We could blow it away, blow it off the map. But so could any country at this point. The thing is, there's always checks and balances there, right? So it's often like this is something that North Korea is doing to kind of say, hey, don't fuck with us, okay? Don't interfere with us. Like, let us do our own thing. I mean, we'll see how that works. I did hear that there was a quote unquote response. I think we like shot missiles off or something like that. I didn't look too much into it, but that being said, I don't think this is like a super huge deal. I will say though, there's mention in this article about his daughter being present there. Also, from the Axios article, they mentioned that it's a little bit of a changing of her title. The state-run Korean Central News Agency for the first time referred to her as the respected daughter of Kim in its report, which is an upgrade as a reference as beloved. So I don't know if she's like rising up as she gets older. I think, though, it is kind of said that, like, if you are going to be on the track to be, like, the next leader, like Kim Jong-un, like, I know his lore kind of increased as he got older, and the next thing you know, you just find, like, oh, he did this, and he did that, and yada, 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 and it's just, like, he just becomes this mythical person over time. That might be the case for his daughter if she's set to become the next leader, but who knows? I don't know. That's above my pay grade. So that's what I wanted to cover there. From NPR, Turkey detains building contractors as the quake death toll rises to more than 33,000. So this is a bit of an update on the Turkey-Syria earthquake death toll situation. So I gotta say, obviously, it's not just about the deaths. It's about, the people who have survive this. I mean, for lack of a better word, you can say the miracles that have taken place. I mean, maybe you don't like that word. I totally get it. But, it's definitely one of those things where we've gone, gosh, I think as of this article, they're saying 6 days. But, there have been people who've been saved, women, children. So I mean, obviously that is an amazing feat, and it's astonishing, and it's great. But it's also sad too because I mean, just hearing about the number just constantly going up day after day after day, and I'm sure it's just one of those things where it's just gonna keep rising, sadly. And then also that there is a definitely something I kind of keep wanting to mention, that there is a lopsided amount of coverage in this too. A lot of it is focused on Turkey, um, as opposed to Syria, and you can say it's a bit of access issues and things of that nature. But the more I feel like I look at it, the best comparison I can kind of make is it's a very akin to Israel and Palestine, where like you have things taking place, and the way that the news and the lens winds up hitting is it's like often on, hey, this is how bad it is in Israel, this is how bad it is for them, and then you get almost like a secondary report on what's going on in Palestine. Um, and then often it's looked at, well, like, well, these people have terrorists here, that's why we can't help them, yada yada yada, things of that nature. But yeah, it's still loss of life. It's still people fighting for their lives. It's still people, you know, just dramatically uprooted by a natural disaster. So that's something I try to mention to try to give as much equal coverage as I can, despite me being in the weeds here all the time because I don't know much about any of this shit. Um, let's see. But the focus of this article, though, there were 131 people who are under investigation for their alleged responsibility in the construction of buildings that failed to withstand the quakes. While the quakes were powerful, victims, experts, and people across Turkey are blaming faulty construction for multiplying the devastation. This is something I mentioned in earlier episodes, but obviously this is a disaster of the century. This is very unprecedented. But there was a big problem in the construction here where you almost saw older buildings doing better than newer buildings because just things were skimped. Like people were just kind of, I don't want to say shortcutting, but they weren't making the buildings to the grade that they should be for the area at hand. Essentially, this is an earthquake zone. There are going to be multiple earthquakes in this area. It needs to be built in a certain kind of way to withstand it. Now, I will also add that this is kind of a bit, I feel like, of a distraction because, like, good, awesome that you're doing these investigations, you're being prompt, you're not waiting. But at the end of the day, there were people who waited on the government for waiting on people to come help them for days. And those are crucial situations. Those are situations where you could hear someone in the rubble, and the next thing you know, you couldn't hear them, and you have to think you're waiting for days to get your family freed, and then finally someone comes to help you. People come to help you, but it's just too little, too late. Um, and making up for it by saying, hey, we're going to make sure all these building contractors, who I'm going to also add, you should have been on their asses to make sure that everything was up to code, and you weren't. Like, that's on y'all. That's just as much on the government as it is these building contractors. So to sit there and say, oh, we're going to round these guys up and we're going to make sure that they see justice, it does, like I said, it feels like too little too late. But, that's how the wheels are going to turn. In terms of the administration, that's what they're going to do to make sure that they look as good as possible. And also the mentioning of, before, kind of want to close out here is yes, this is the disaster of the century. But I do feel like a little bit of the spin is to keep focusing on that narrative that this is some monumentous act of God and no one could have been prepared for it. And even if we were the most prepared, this would have happened. And it's like, yes, but yet again, I can't state this enough, that at the end of the day, the public response to this is going to always be better when you see that the government was actually helping, was actually providing. When you go through the tail of the tape and you see, hey, yes, this was crazy. Yes, this was the event of the century in terms of like a catastrophe or whatever, but the government really were there for us. And I don't know if they're going to say that for, Erdogan. I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's take it back to the States. I know we've been doing a little bit of international news. Actually, I'm I'm gonna smirk a little early. Do my break. Ooh. Okay. All right, from the Insider. Trump shares photos of DeSantis alleging. Oh, sorry, I got an ad in my way. Alleging he partied and drank with high school girls when he was a teacher. So, we're really rearing up here with a bit of, mudslinging, if you will. So, Trump reshared a 20-year-old photo of DeSantis that appears to show him posing with recent high school graduates. So obviously, this is a very cringe thing. In these photos, I believe like the school I think he was working at the time was like Darlington or something like that, some corny ass shit. Um, let me read a little bit. Let me peel back a little bit. I'll read the quote from the True Social app post. That's not Ron, is it? He would never do such a thing, Trump wrote sarcastically on his social media app, Truth. The picture shows 23-year-old DeSantis smiling between three women with blurred out faces whose ages aren't clear. One of the females in the photos is holding a brown glass bottle, but DeSantis isn't pictured drinking. Still, the caption says, "Here is Ron DeSantimonious grooming high school girls with alcohol as a teacher." I don't know. My Trump impression's off today. Sorry. Followed by a vomit emoji, which I hate. I hate that technically Trump and I have like a very similar texting post style in terms of you say a thing and then you end it with an emoji. I feel like the Zoomers are ahead now. Like I've heard some people like mad that like people use ellipses, like the ... and I'm like, no, I totally get that, but like you should use it sometimes, right? They're like, no, never use it. Why would you waste time? Like that's such a waste of space. And I'm like, oh my god, they're right. The Zoomers are right. And then I've heard people clown like, why do you people always gotta put a period with an emoji? You don't need to do that. Just be an adult. Just be normal. And I'm like, damn. I'm sorry. I'm so new to emojis. I always feel like, but I love using them. I got a new emoji update, and I'm like, oh, let me use that. So anyway, the vomit emoji though is true. I don't know. This is definitely like a mudslinging thing. I will say, DeSantis. Oh shit, sorry, DeSantis, hasn't really, like, he didn't fight it. Like he didn't, and what I mean by that, I'm not saying he like is like, oh, I totally did happen. I was grooming those girls. But what he did do is essentially he's like, I'm not going to stoop down to that level. So he did the political thing of saying, I'm going to rise above this. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to like resort to that kind of tactic. Which is seemingly like in his favor, in terms of like the polling or whatever between the two of them. Oh, excuse me. But, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting attack. I will say this is definitely a thing that only Trump can do and pull off. I'm sure core Trump stumpers totally are like, yeah, this dude is a pedophile. That being said, I gotta say, it is cringy as fuck. Like, what are you doing? You're a 23-year-old dude partying with, like, just graduated fucking high schoolers? Like, that's weird. That is definitely awkward. Also, I learned a new term reading this article. The original message Trump reshared was from a user named Dong Chan Lee, whose Trump social describes him as a paleo conservative and Trump supporter. Of fucking course, you're on this goddamn dumbass app. But essentially, I guess a paleo conservative like believes in like American nationalism. They believe in God, that family first, all that dumbass bullshit. Essentially just like, hey, this is my excuse to be xenophobic and vote Republican. I do not believe in immigrants. I don't know. Um, Gosh, such a cute little title. Let's see. Yeah, Darlington. That is the school. Let's see. The New York Times reported in November that the photo was taken after the 2001 and 2002 academic year that DeSantis spent as a teacher at the elite Darlington School before attending Harvard Law School. Darlington is a boarding school located in Rome, Georgia, where DeSantis coached baseball and football and taught history and government. Several students. Actually, let me pull back here. That's interesting, right? Because in terms of like how DeSantis approaches the culture war stuff, I do find it very interesting that he is so like in the schools. Like, we've talked about in terms of like his talks on the CRT thing and all that, which is, once again, that's a Fox News trope. Like, you pick that up from there and you run with it. But like DeSantis is very, very like pushing the idea that this should not be in schools. The fact that he takes it to like the college level and all these kind of things. And maybe like this is kind of helping me kind of see like, well, this is kind of his plan of attack. He came up that way. And he knows that like education is such an important thing to people, to parents. Like it's very it's just a big button to push in these culture wars or whatever. So that's interesting, maybe illuminating. But yeah, they also bring up Trump's nickname of DeSanctimonious, which I love. Also, I've been saying it wrong. It's wrong DeSanctimonious. That was like his first firing salvo. So I mean, honestly, as cringe and gross as this is on both sides, I will say this is definitely a classic Trump move. We'll see if it works out in his favor in the long run. So far, Trump is still the only person in the ring for 2024. Though people are equating Joe Biden's State of the Union address as like him saying, hey, I'm going to run. He still hasn't done it yet. He's just kind of talking about his good shit. In terms of DeSantis, he's also not stepped in the ring yet. But all signs point to him doing so. Which Trump has said he's like, hey, that's kind of like shady behavior, right? Like you literally ran off of my ticket, like you ran off the Trump bump, and you're gonna leave the position to try to beat me. So definitely wanted to cover some of the mudslinging. And then the final article here, which I'm gonna double dose here. Let's see, from NPR, yeah. Florida high school athletes won't have to report their periods after emergency vote. Ick. And not ick on periods, but ick in this whole situation, which I'm going to get into. Rawr. Okay. So, I gotta say, this one, I've been dodging this article. I've been articles like this, I should say, for the pod. Because this idea is some old ass draconian shit to me that it's gross. Like it's weird. Like the idea is, well, let me just start with the opener, because let me start with the good news. The Florida High School Athletic Association's board of directors has voted 14-2 to remove questions about high school athletes' menstrual cycle or menstrual history from a required health form for participation in high school athletes. So like I said, this is the trickle down of this culture war shit that DeSantis has been pushing. The idea that we cannot have trans athletes commingling and playing in our sport is an issue to him. It's also an issue that we're talking about abortion and things of that nature. So kind of backdooring this whole thing in, you get almost this 2-for-1, where if we're literally policing women's vaginas, then we get to keep out people who don't have natural vaginas or whatever the fuck, biological women. I'm sorry, that shit is so dumb to me. We live in a like, it's always a choice. It's always been a choice. Like, you can go back in time, you can go in the future, you're always gonna see that. I can't fuck to you. Oh, god damn it, it's frustrating as hell. Um, but this whole combat of this has gone to literally a school level, a high school level, I gotta say. Like, normally it's at the fringes, it's at college level, yada yada yada. At worst, that's maybe your AP class you just don't have anymore because we're scared to not have it, which is fucked up. But anyway, the idea that we're literally saying, no, you gotta tell me about your periods, milady. Like, why? Like, these are girls, by the way. These are girls. Like I might slip up and say women here because that is, you know, what we're talking about. We're talking about a woman's issue. But these are girls. Sorry, I bumped the table. But it's crazy that it's gotten to this point. And I will say, though, that the sad thing is here, like, yes, they voted no. So good. Whew, bullet dodged, I guess, for now. But we're still having the conversation that, like, on this, that, like, you need to know, like, you need to say the sex that you were assigned at birth. And that just shouldn't, to me, it just shouldn't be an issue. I will say in Ohio, I catch a lot of flack for this take because since the whole swimming situation, I forget the name of the swimmer. I'm sorry, but with her, like, people being like, oh well, it should be about a biological woman. And at least in terms of just the rabble I've wind up talking to and having this question posed to them, they really feel strongly about it, and I do not get why. Like, at the end of the day, it's about the sport to me, and it's about the people who show up to play the sport. Also, doing these kind of rules, these sweeping kind of things, you are literally targeting the smallest amount of people and making it so that they can't even play the game. And you're saying, no, this small group of people should have to play with a completely other gender that they do not, you know, identify as. It just doesn't make sense to me. It is silly as hell to me to debate over and fight over. You should just be allowed to play the fucking sport. It's about sport to me. I don't know. I like I said, I guess in Ohio sometimes that is a hot take. But whatever. I am glad to definitely see this not come to pass though. But it's just weird to be even discussing it. It's crazy that we even got here as a society. Like, that's weird. It's weird that we are living in a society where this can be a button to push. And DeSantis is pushing it, and I mean the Florida government. Because that's another thing too. I think I do this a lot. It is done in the media a bit, where you villainize the one person, the entity, and you say, yeah, this is the reason. As if we took DeSantis out of the conversation, this wouldn't be this way. But every time I cover these stories, I listen to these stories, you hear the government backing it, the constant churning of people who are like, yeah, no, this is a good idea, this is a good idea, until the public goes, what the fuck are you doing? And then they go, okay, maybe you guys don't understand. Well, let's just rephrase it, and then it trickles out a little bit more closer to sane. But I don't know. I'm talking a bit long on these issues or what have you. Oh yeah, also I forgot about this when we were talking about the Trump DeSantis thing. And the Insider, it's mentioned that Trump never drinks, which was such a fucking red flag to me. So I had to go look it up, which was a Vice article that disputes it, or trumps it, if you will. Trump says he's never had a glass of alcohol. These people say otherwise. It's essentially, a bunch of stories of people saying, oh, I saw Trump drinking, yada, yada, yada. Either way, I'm personally calling no believesies on that. You can be a teetotaler all you want. You can be like, oh, I don't drink. And I'm sure he doesn't drink in public in a sense where you're going to see a big camera on him. But bullshit, he doesn't drink in private. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Who can say? But that's all I got. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Let's see here. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. If you would like to support bonus episodes, you get Discord access, you get the roll call newsy status, and then also IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. If you want to hit me up for questions, comments, concerns, what have you. And then I'm on all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, all that good shit. You can find me on there. I appreciate any and all comments and reactions. I love you guys. I see you guys. And sorry, it's always nice to just interact with people who are listening or just seeing the same kind of news I'm seeing out in the wild. So, yeah. Hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.